This is the Oz report for Saturday, May 21st, 2022. And let's start with Capsuleer Day. Capsuleer Day is going on right now, and typically this is where I've told you 100 times to go out and put buy orders out for the Gnosis, Praxis, and Synesis chips, because everyone is getting them right now and the prices are crashing. I think this year is finally the year where we were able to make the market efficient enough and get the information out there that the drop isn't all that big. However, if you look at the Gnosis in game, you are seeing a little bit of a drop. Right now, the Gnosis is trading on the sell side around 40 million in JITA. The Praxis is around 170 million. So this is already where people started buying a lot earlier than they did in previous years, and so the price drop wasn't as big. The Praxis, you know, fantastic ship, very popular ship, low skill threshold. So, you know, right now you could probably buy them at 174, and you're going to make a profit throughout the year because it's going to hit 200 million again. It's just that the price difference is not as big as it has been in previous years. Now the Synesis is special because the Synesis, not only did they release this as part of Capsuleer Day to everyone, but also, you know, there's a Synesis free-for-all event going on right now in the Abyssal Arena, and so those prices have spiked anyway. And it's going to be very interesting to see what impact this is going to have on the prices throughout the rest of the year, because, you know, as it is, Synesis super popular, you know, very good small hauler with insta-line capability, and so you know, right now a 24 million Synesis, because everyone's running that event. I don't think it's going to drop back into the 10 million range that we saw in the past years. I think throughout the year, I think it's going to stay above 15 million probably. Just because there's A, it's so popular, and B, there's going to be a lot of them destroyed and a lot of them hoarded in the next few weeks. All right, let's talk about Siege Green a little bit. Siege Green, we saw a lot of the faction ship and battleship and capital ship components change. One of the big ones, the Auto Integrity Preservation Seal and the Life Support Backup Unit, those are two components where their output quantity was just increased from 1 to 3, and that meant that the price was going to be cut in 3. Very easy. That's just what's going to happen. So if you were holding these, you were royally screwed last week. What does this mean? This is the basis for a big part of the cost reduction that we have seen in the past week since Siege Green, in these faction ships and battleships and capital ships. Now the core temperature regulator, which is the third component of this type, that didn't have its quantity increased. It had some of the, I think, really just the water reduced, so the price didn't crash on that one. The big one that we now are seeing actually being built and being traded is the capital core temperature regulator, which uses some of the other components, puts them all together, and then is a very expensive component for capital ships. And you can see here in the past this wasn't even built or traded because capitals weren't built or traded, and now we are seeing these being traded, which is a very good sign. This has another impact into the market, and that means the capital core temperature regulator, they use a lot of integrity response drones and self-harmonizing power core. Those are planetary interaction products, P4, the highest level. And if you look at the prices, they've just absolutely exploded, and their availability is almost gone. So the mere fact that we now do have capital construction going on means that these two items, among other things, but those two items the most have absolutely spiked. What is this going to mean? This is going to mean a lot of PI production that is starting now might shift to these items because they're in much higher demand now. This might become, you know, one of the newer bottlenecks, and Two, if you have these lying around, because you know in PI a lot of times you produce and then you wait for a good price to sell. Right now, make sure you are selling these, because this is a very, very special time in the market where these are going to be sold at an insane premium. So integrity response drones and self-harmonizing power cores, those two, sell them right now. Let's look at moon materials first, because moon materials are what goes into some of the components that I was talking about. So for example, the R4 moon materials, atmospheric gases, evaporate deposits, hydrocarbons, and silicates, you would have expected those maybe to go down because fewer are needed, or actually they might have even left them unchanged. What's going on here is you're seeing the prices not spike but increase significantly because we are seeing production increase, right? So these all came from high production or high cost levels anyway, because the industry changes that we saw last year, they made them they introduced these components and they found an additional use for them. So they were already expensive. They then crashed throughout the year as people were adjusting and producing more and not producing a lot of end products. But now we're seeing them turn around a little bit because people are producing again, and that's a very good sign for the economy overall. There are some other moon materials that are interesting. For example, if you look at chromium, chromium has increased in price significantly and is completely gone, right? There's none left in the market, which is insane in itself. And so this is a time where if you're sitting on chromium, like I am, right after the stream, I'm going to be feeding the market again because I'm sitting on probably around 100 billion of this. It's time to seed that market, right? This is insane. And yes, I know before I started the stream, there was about 0.9 trade days there. Now somebody has bought out the entire market. So this is a very fresh development. And no, it wasn't me, since you all saw me streaming the entire time. Fully rides, another one that has significantly increased in price. This is mainly used in this advanced moon material used in tier 2 ammo, for example. That has increased significantly, not necessarily because of the higher demand, but because of the inputs for this reaction getting more expensive. So we're seeing moon material across the board rising 5%, 10% over the last week or two. And so after a long period of moon material getting cheaper, this is now making other things more expensive in the market as well. And this is, you know, a great thing if you're holding a lot of investment items. It's, you know, a little bit, it's a little bit less good if you continue to want to buy your T2 stuff very, very cheaply. But on the other hand, the tier 2 ships have been crashing in price significantly over the last few months. So I think everyone can be okay with those ships and tier 2 ammo going back up in price a little bit again. Some other interesting ones are platinum, also almost gone in the market. So raw moon material, this has increased significantly in price and is almost gone in the market. So if you have those, sell that. And titanium is another one that has increased a lot. So those are the three or four moon materials that have increased the most, 10 to 20%, some of them even more over the last week or two. And that is purely because Siege Green changes made some ships reasonable to build again, because either they are cheap enough now for people to buy them, or because they finally have a blueprint that is cheaper than the actual market cost that they're selling for. So we're seeing production, we're seeing demand for moon material again, and that is fantastic. That's a great place to be, and that is showing a healthy economy. I skipped minerals earlier. Minerals, let's talk Mexalon. Mexalon is the mineral that increased most in price. You know, apart from Isogen, was just absolutely going crazy, obviously. And so, you know, This is purely also because production has increased and there's not a huge amount in the market. So this is great. If you're looking at Zydrine, Zydrine also has less than 1 trade day left in the market in JITA. So while Zydrine is one that has had a very, very constant price, this could be the next one to spike because there's simply not enough left in the market. So this is just a production push away from, or one more production push, maybe 1 or 2 high production days away from spiking in price. So Zydrine, very interesting. Have a look on that. Let's talk about a few tier 2 ships that are currently trading below build price because its materials have increased in price and the final price hasn't caught up. For example, the Cerberus at 148 is just below build price. You know, obviously depending on where you build, but if you take a healthy average, Cerberus very cheap right now. You know, if the rally on Moongoo and other materials continues, that could be an interesting investment. If you look at the Hulk and the Skiff, the Hulk, you know, at 180 and below right now, let's see, at 180 exactly, it's very cheap and it's just below production price. And also the Skiff is currently trading quite cheaply. So just you know, just some tier 2 ships that are interesting to look at. Let's talk about trick ships real quick. So if you guys watch my stream regularly, you know that I am a big fan of investing in abyssal materials, which was very tough over the last few months, but now this is redemption time because production has picked up again. And so we're seeing 0-point condensate and crystalline isogen absolutely spike and come back, right? So this is really, really cool if you're holding it, right? What does this mean for the ships? It doesn't mean that ships prices have spiked because this coincided obviously with the Siege Green changes. And this being faction ships, a lot of the ships just got very, very cheap because they're using fewer of those new components. So if we're looking at something like the Damavik, right? The frigate, the Trig frigate, it is trading at 16 million right now. It has dropped in price a lot since Siege Green. This is probably a good price for it. The Dracovac has dropped down to 140 million. That is super low, right? And you can see how that has also meant that it's becoming more and more popular because these were good ships anyway. People were buying and flying them. And so this just means that people are now flying them even more because they're more affordable. And so we're seeing a higher demand on the raw materials, and we're seeing even though we're seeing a dropped price on them, they're still profitable to make. The Damavik, the Dracovac, and the Vedmak are probably in a good place. They're probably, if you look at their raw materials and their blueprint prices, they're probably in a good place. The one that's still a bit expensive is the Kikimora. The Kikimora is still very profitable to make, so I think the Kikimora will actually drop a little bit more in price. I think the equilibrium should be more in the lower 20s, but we'll see what happens there. The 0-point field manipulator is the component that you then need to create tier 2 ships out of those tier 1 trig ships, and those have been rallying as well. So you can see that you know, it's not the same amount of increased production on tier 2 ships because they haven't had their blueprints changed as much as the tier 1 ships, but these are rallying as well. So you probably can expect the Nurgle and the Ikatursa and those ships to increase in price over the next few weeks, because this has been a rally that's been going on for a few weeks. Let me mention some other items that are just interesting. We have the Athenor. The Athenor crashed in price a lot because of changes in the last patch as well. So these medium structures are now going to be less popular because they're much more difficult to defend, and that's why I think they, you know, just people were dropping them. The price of an Athenor is now pretty much at build price though, so this is very, very cheap. And the buy price in JITA is at 495 million. I mean, this is very, very cheap for an Athenor. So to me, the Athenor, this is a temporary drop, and so this is to me a good investment right now. Let's look at some filaments. The electrical filaments are especially popular right now. There are some good Gila and Stormbringer fits out there that people are using to run them. So you can see increased volume and absolutely increased pricing. It has also been spiking a lot. So this price has hit 60, 65 on cataclysmic electric filaments. So this is a good item right now for day trading, but also if you were buying this along with me in the last few weeks, because it had hit a 52-week low, then right now is the time to sell these. Chaotic electrical the same, although the price increase hasn't been there as much. I would still expect it to be a very good investment right now at 19 million on the buy side. Not only is the margin good, but I expect the price to rise as well. So chaotic exotic filaments are just cheap right now, and they've been rising over the last few weeks. So chaotic exotic filaments is another one that I think is a very good investment right now. And I'm going to finish with the neurovisual input matrix. This is the ancient salvage material that goes into tier 3 ships, and that had been rallying for the longest time, and now we've seen a significant period of these going down. These make up about 10-20% of a T3 ship's cost, and so you can expect this to make T3 ships like the Loki or the Tengu a little bit cheaper over the next few weeks if this trend continues. Okay, that was a rather long Oz report today, but I haven't done this in a long time. Good to be back, and we're going to return to the regular stream, and I will see you guys on the Oz report next week.